trigger warning for anyone who owns fabric shears. Sorry. You know what Mom's fabric shears were good for? Cutting anything and everything. They were so sharp. She had written fabric only in all capital letters on the handle, but you know what I used them for? Cutting a branch from the backyard, cutting up a piece of cardboard, cutting paper, lots of paper. I even cut a tongue into the mouth of my favorite stuffed animal, but at least that was fabric. Worst of all, in this cutting rampage I was going on, I walked up to the back of the couch where one of my mom's handmade crocheted blankets was, a blanket that probably took her months to make. I pulled a string out from the middle of the blanket, I cut it, and then I tucked the loose ends deep into the weave of the blanket. I then returned the precious fabric shears back to their drawer so my mom would never know all that I had done with them. I was such a smart little girl. Less than an hour later, she comes in, fuming, furious, steam coming out of her ears, and an exact list of everything I had cut all throughout the house. And sure, I got a significant whooping then. She may have even pulled the wooden spoon out for this one. But what terrified me most about my mom wasn't the wooden spoon. It was the fact that she seemed to possess some sort of magical ability to know what I was doing when I was up to no good. There's just no way she could have found all of those cuts on her own. I had been so careful to cover my tracks. I was such a smart little girl, but my mom was the all-out psychic. Back in those days, we lived in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Houston. My dad did work a lot, so a lot of my memories from that time revolved around our house there, fighting with my little brother and sister, and fighting with my mom. And my mother is a tiny Asian woman, 4 foot something, but despite her small size, she'll really surprise you with her alpha presence, which just fills any room that she walks into. Her loud and deep voice, and her really quick temper, which doesn't hesitate to publicly shame the stranger trying to cut the line during holiday shopping season. You've been warned. She also raised us on a tight budget. I was always aware of that, but she made it work, so we always had the necessities. Each of us had 1 pair of sandals and 1 pair of shoes, both a size or two too big so we'd grow into them. She packed our lunches for school in the morning, and when we were really little, she even made some of our clothing by hand. This is a woman that never wasted a dime. And yet, as I'm just culling through some of my memories to put this story together, I realized I have memories of going to preschool. I learned to read there with Hooked on Phonics because it was the 90s. I remember playing on the playground there and meeting my first boyfriend, Dominic. But what's odd about this memory is my mom wasn't dropping me off at preschool to go to work. She was a stay-at-home mom back in those days. And even odder, my brother and sister didn't go with me, so they must have been home with her. How telling and how funny to realize that my extremely frugal mother paid good money to put me in preschool just to get a break from me. And I don't blame her, because there I am again, standing on tippy toes, hardly breathing, eyes fixed on the back of her head while she watched TV in the other room. I was maybe 15 feet behind her in the kitchen, reaching up on the counter for God knows what. Whatever it was, I wasn't supposed to have it. But before my fingertips could reach the edge of whatever I was trying to get, and without turning her head to look at me and witness this, my mom says in a deep and slow and dangerous tone, "Stephanie, stop now." All-knowing, utterly terrifying. And thankfully, I did grow up to be a pretty decent adult. And we're pretty good friends, my mom and I. So a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to her about this story, about her magical powers and the eyes that seemed to be in the back of her head. And she proceeded to reveal to me that She had reflective surfaces planted in each of the rooms that she could watch me and observe what I was doing without me knowing. This revelation made me laugh so hard that I cried. And it's true, as a little girl, I was both afraid of and completely in awe of my mother's seemingly magical powers. But now, as an adult, knowing the craft behind her magic, I gotta say, I admire her even more. Thank you for listening to my story.